Good morning, Kids Life. I hope you're having a great Sunday. Today, we are continuing to kind of talk about Jesus and some of the miracles he performed when he was here on earth, and just sort of the idea of what a miracle is. But before we get started, I'm going to ask a little question. If you are at One Life, can you guess about how many people are in church today? Maybe 20, 50? If you aren't at One Life today, maybe you could take a guess at how many you think are there, even if you're not at church. You can just sort of think about that. Now, that could also include people who are doing things online. So kind of take a guess. If you're there, you can pause and take answers at One Life. Well, imagine there was a crowd of more than 5,000 people here for dinner. What would you do? Like 5,000 people came to One Life, or if you're not at One Life, can you imagine 5,000 people coming to One Life? How would you help, right? What would you do? It's a little tricky now because 5,000 people is a really big crowd that we probably wouldn't be having at One Life in the times of COVID right now. But let's imagine this was happening not during COVID, right? And so before that happened, before COVID happened, there was like some event, and then there was going to be 5,000 people at the church. Okay. So think about these questions. What would you do? How would you help? And what would they eat? So go ahead and pause here. You can take some answers and then come back when you're done. So today we're going to hear the story of the miracle Jesus performed when he was teaching to a crowd of 5,000 people who were hungry. Now, that's a lot of people, right? And this event that happened actually had a miracle that happened. And a miracle is when God makes something happen that seems impossible. Like there's no way that that could happen. And yet somehow it does. The Bible is full of miracles, and we can look for miracles that happen in our lives too. So before we get started on our Bible story, we're actually going to take a pause and go right down below, and we're going to watch the World Kids video. And in this video, Gabe, he's the green one, is trying to strengthen his faith and grow closer to God, but will it happen the way that he expects? We're going to find out to see how his friends help him kind of clear up a misunderstanding. So go ahead and watch that video. Come back up here when you're done, and we'll answer some questions. All right. So that was kind of a silly video with Gabe taking pictures, right? Trying to figure stuff out, trying to capture a miracle. So what is it does Gabe think he's photographing when he's doing those photographs? You can pause if you're at church and take some answers. Do you think he's capturing some miracles? Why does he want to collect evidence? What do you think that's going to do? You can pause. You say he thinks it's going to supercharge his faith, right? If he can capture some miracles, maybe that will like make his faith like extra strong, right? What is the purpose of miracles? Why do we have them? You can pause. That's an interesting question, right? I think there's lots of different answers of why we might have miracles, right? Just to build faith, to have some connection with God, right? And to help Jesus wanted to help people. That's why he did miracles, right? And God provides us sometimes with miracles on earth to help us too. What evidence of God do you see in your life? You can pause. Hopefully there's lots of evidence if you look for it, right? Just how he provides for us, how he keeps us safe, how he shows us little things every day that are kind of amazing. Sometimes I even just think the idea of like the seasons are kind of a miracle, like that as we are finishing up winter and moving into spring and flowers are starting to kind of poke out, To me, that is almost a miracle too, right? Do you think miracles have to be big, amazing events? Why or why not? Can pause to talk about that. Well, I kind of just mentioned this a minute ago, right? That even just flowers blooming to me seems sort of like a miracle. So that's definitely not a huge thing because that happens all the time. But it is sort of like a miracle. All right. So if you are at One Life, we're going to pause here and you'll listen to your teachers and they'll tell you what you're going to do next. If you are here online, go ahead and just stay here and we will jump right into our kids' life story. All right. So we are again looking at Jesus. And remember, at this time, he has done some pretty amazing things. Like he raised Lazarus and he's healed a bunch of sick people. And the word is kind of getting out that like this guy is doing some amazing things. And so people are starting to follow him, right? They want to like learn from him and see him. And so wherever Jesus went, many people gathered to hear him teach. And in today's story, this crowd, like we said, of how many? 5,000 people were listening to him when they became hungry. And the disciples were worried. It seemed impossible to have enough food to feed all those people, but Jesus knew what to do. So we are going to take, I have to pause just 1 minute so I can grab my Bible. Wherever it is. Sorry about that. I had him in the other room. We are going to read from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 21. And it also has to do with kind of a kid that plays a pretty important role in here. So we're going to read pages 299 to 300. Okay, so here is Jesus right here reading, and then this is the little boy's lunch. Here he has it right there. And he's bringing it to Jesus. Then let's see what happens next. He blesses it. And there's the whole crowd eating. And there's some bags of it left over at the end. So you probably might have heard the story before. It's a pretty common story in the Bible. Not common, meaning that a lot of people hear it because it is pretty miraculous. So, but let's listen again. Don't forget your lunch, a mother told her son. The boy looked inside his basket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he counted. 5 small barley loaves. 1, 2, and 2 fish. The boy swung his basket as he scurried on his way. How many people will come to hear Jesus today? He wondered. A huge crowd of people gathered by the sea to hear Jesus. The boy wiggled and squeezed his way to the front to hear what Jesus was saying. Where can we buy bread for all these people to eat? Jesus asked Philip. They all must be hungry. Philip's eyes grew big. All of them? There must be 5,000 people here, he responded. We don't even have enough money to buy bread for everyone. And the question here is, what kind of food might you feed 5,000 people? It have to be something that you could cook quickly and pretty easily, it seems like, right? The boy held up his basket. I can share my lunch, he offered. And Otto down here says, all the people there should have had their mothers pack them lunches too. And Ada says, adults usually have to make their own lunch. Andrew counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 loaves and 1, 2, 2 fish. How will this feed 5,000 people? Smiling, Jesus picked up the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. Thank you, Father, for this food, he prayed. Jesus passed the boys' lunch to the crowd. Each person took plenty of bread and fish to eat, and everyone ate until they were full. The disciples gathered the leftover food into baskets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The boy started to count the baskets. A man wondered, how did 5 loaves and 2 fish feed everyone? 6, 7, 8, 9, the boy continued. A woman gasped in surprise. How can there be any leftovers? 10, 11, 12 baskets of leftovers. The boy finished counting. It's a miracle. The boy and the whole crowd could not wait to tell everyone what Jesus had done. And Otto down here says, all that bread and fish is pretty impressive, but I would have asked for a pineapple pizza. So in our story today, right, it's something that seemed impossible, right? Feeding 5,000 people with just a small lunch became possible through Jesus, right? And Jesus was able to take this boy's small gift and perform a miracle for the whole crowd. So let's see what we have our questions here. Who provided the 5 loaves and the bread? 5 loaves of bread and fish. I just gave you that answer, right? The little boy. How did 5,000 people get enough food? It's kind of like a miracle, right? Why would Jesus want to feed a crowd of followers? What do you think his purpose for that was? My guess is he probably really cared about them, first of all, like the fact that they were hungry. He was always someone to think about others. So my guess is he was hungry, right? He wanted to care. They were hungry. They wanted to care for others. Those are some pretty important things, right? Why do you think Jesus performed miracles? So remember, if you've been with us the last couple of weeks, we've seen quite a few of things. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He's walked on water. Now he's feeding 5,000 people. Like, these are things that happened again and again, right? So why did he do these miracles? I think it always comes back to that idea that he cared for his people and he wanted them to be loved, right? To feel loved. And a lot of times the miracle had to do with that. Also the miracle of the wine. Remember that one from a few weeks ago? And also I think it helped show others, right? The faith that he had and the ability that if you were able to believe that seeing these miracles kind of helped them with their faith to believe. Now, again, just kind of like in our video, this idea of faith is a process, right? Even those who saw these miracles maybe didn't believe at first, right? They kind of had to think about it. And that's kind of like us today, right? Even though we hear about these miracles and sometimes we experience miracles here in our lives today, it does take a whole bit of time sometimes to continue to build faith. It's something that even myself and other grown-ups are doing. It's not just something that you get, right? So that is our story for today, a miracle that Jesus did. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. And we're going to close and then I hope you have a wonderful day. So before we go, though, one thing to think about too is just the idea that you can also look for Jesus's miracles in your life. Like I said, they don't have to be big. They can be small. If you see something that just kind of is like, wow, that's so amazing, that could be considered sort of a miracle in your life. So maybe this week, see if you can see a small miracle or something that amazes you, and thank God for giving that to you. So let's close in prayer. Loving God, thank you for showing us that you can make anything possible. Please help us to have faith to see your miracles all around us. In your name, amen. All right, Kids Life, have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.